I took the job because I needed the money and because nobody else wanted the overnight shift. That's the honest truth. No calling, no passion for public service, just student loans that had gone into default and a landlord who'd stopped accepting promises. The Mercy County Emergency Communications Center sat on the second floor of the old courthouse annex, a gray brick building that hadn't been updated since 1984. The main dispatcher pool worked days and evenings, 8 stations with modern equipment and digital mapping. Night shift was different. Night shift was just me, alone in the back room they called the overflow center, working equipment that still used cathode ray monitors and a phone system with actual physical switches. My supervisor, a woman named Diane Carver, who'd been dispatching since before I was born, met me outside the building at 10:45 p.m. on my first night. She was short, compact, with gray hair pulled back tight and eyes that didn't waste time on pleasantries. "You're on time," she said. "Good, come on." She led me through the main entrance, past the security desk where a guard nodded without looking up, and up a stairwell that smelled like floor wax and old coffee. The main dispatch floor was bright, active, 3 dispatchers working the evening shift, voices calm and professional, fingers moving across keyboards. Diane walked past it all without stopping. "That's the A side," she said. "You won't be working there, not on overnights." We went through a door at the back, down a hallway with flickering fluorescent lights, and into a smaller room. 1 desk, 1 chair, 1 ancient computer terminal, 1 phone console with 48 buttons arranged in 6 rows of 8, and 1 radio base station with a microphone on a coiled cord. A single window looked out over the parking lot covered by vertical blinds that were closed. "This is the overflow center," Diane said. "Used to handle backup calls when the main floor was overwhelmed. Now we use it for overnight solo shifts." She set a 3-ring binder on the desk. "Your operating manual." I looked around. "Just me? All night?" "Mercy County has 4,000 residents," Diane said. "Most nights you'll get 2, maybe 3 calls. Medical transports, drunk drivers, domestic disturbances. Nothing you can't handle alone." She opened the binder. "But there are procedures you need to follow exactly. No improvisation, no shortcuts. These rules exist for a reason." "Okay," I said. "I mean it." Her eyes locked on mine. "Every rule in this manual is here because someone learned the hard way what happens when you ignore it. You follow them precisely, you'll be fine. You deviate, even slightly, and you put yourself at risk." "At risk of what?" "Of not making it to your shift change," she said. She wasn't smiling. I tried to laugh. It came out hollow in the small room. Diane pulled out the chair and sat down, gesturing for me to stand beside her. "I'm going to walk you through your first hour. Watch what I do. After midnight, you're on your own until 6 a.m. Questions? What if something goes wrong?" "Follow the procedures," she said. "They cover contingencies." She tapped the binder. "Read this carefully during your downtime, all of it. Don't skim." She showed me how to log into the computer, a DOS-based system with green text on a black screen. Showed me the phone console, how to answer on line 1 only unless line 1 was occupied, in which case I could use line 2. Never line 3 through 8. Those stayed dark. Why? Because the manual says so. She pointed to the radio. "Channel 6 for police, Channel 9 for fire and medical. You'll dispatch county units only. City of Mercy has its own dispatch. Don't cross-coordinate unless specifically requested by a supervisor, and supervisors don't work overnight." "Got it." "Radio check every hour on the hour. Set your watch." She showed me her wrist, a digital watch with a black band. "Use the exact phrasing. Mercy County dispatch to all units. Radio check. Wait for responses. Log them. If a unit doesn't respond within 2 minutes, note it and move on. Don't attempt to recontact them. What if there's an emergency? If they needed you, they'd call." She stood. "Your shift starts at midnight. I'll be here until then. At midnight I leave. You lock the door behind me with this key." She placed a single brass key on the desk. "You don't open it again until 0600 when your relief arrives. No exceptions." "What if someone knocks?" You don't answer. What if it's an emergency? Anyone with a legitimate emergency will radio or call. The door stays locked. She pulled a thermos from her bag and unscrewed the cap. Coffee? I brought my own, thanks. Good. Don't drink from the break room pot if you find one brewing. Someone forgets to turn it off sometimes, and it's been sitting for hours by the time you get here. She poured herself a cup. Now the rules. Open the manual to Section 3. I flipped through the binder. Section 3 was titled Overnight Operational Protocols in all caps, printed on pages that looked like they'd been photocopied multiple times, the text slightly blurred at the edges. Read them aloud, Diane said. I want to make sure you understand them. I started reading. Rule 1. Door remains locked from midnight to 6 a.m. Do not open for knocking, voices, or any audible disturbance. Your relief will unlock the door from the outside using their own key. Rule 2. Answer phones on line 1 only. If line 1 is occupied and a second call comes in, answer on line 2. Lines 3 through 8 are not operational. Do not pick up if they light. Rule 3. Radio checks occur at the top of every hour. 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Use exact phrasing. Mercy County dispatch to all units. Radio check. Wait 2 minutes for all responses. Log call signs and times. Do not recontact non-responding units. Rule 4. If you hear footsteps in the hallway outside your door between midnight and 3 a.m., do not investigate. Continue working. The footsteps will stop on their own. I paused. Is this a joke? Keep reading, Diane said. Rule 5. The window blinds stay closed. If you hear tapping on the window, do not open the blinds to look. Note the time and continue working. Rule 6. If line 3 lights up, ignore it. If it rings, do not answer. If it continues ringing for more than 5 minutes, unplug the phone console from the wall. Wait 60 seconds and plug it back in. Rule 7. Between 2:15 and 2:35 a.m., you may hear voices in the main dispatch room. The main room will be empty. Do not go investigate. The voices will stop by 2:35 a.m. Rule 8. All non-emergency calls should be logged and handled per standard protocol. If a caller asks for someone by name, specifically asks for Sarah or Marcus, tell them no one by that name works here and disconnect. Do not engage in further conversation. Rule 9. Your computer terminal will sometimes display a call record you did not enter. The caller name will be listed as external request. Do not dispatch units to this address. Delete the record and note the time in your log. Rule 10. Radio traffic on channels other than 6 and 9 is not your concern. If you accidentally hear traffic on another channel, switch back immediately and do not acknowledge what you heard. Rule 11. At 3:30 a.m., your screen may go black for up to 90 seconds. This is normal. Wait for it to restore. Do not restart the computer. Do not attempt to leave the room during this time. Rule 12. If dispatch requests come in for addresses on Cutter Road past mile marker 7, inform the caller that area is outside county jurisdiction and disconnect. Do not dispatch units. Rule 13. Keep your personal belongings on the desk in front of you. Do not place items on the filing cabinet, the chair beside the door, or the floor near the window. Rule 14. At the end of your shift, before unlocking the door for your relief, verify that all phone lines are dark. The radio is set to channel 6, and your terminal displays the main screen. Log your end time and close the manual. I finished reading and looked at Diane. These are oddly specific. Yes. Why the specific times? Why the rules about phone lines and voices and... Because that's how it works. She sipped her coffee. You're going to want explanations. You're not going to get them. Follow the rules exactly as written and you'll be fine. And if I don't? She looked at me for a long moment. The last person who worked this shift didn't follow the rules. He's not working here anymore. He quit? Something like that. She set her cup down. I've been dispatching for 32 years, 28 of them at this center. I've worked overnight exactly 4 times, and each time I followed every single rule without deviation. I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell everyone who takes this position. These rules aren't suggestions, they aren't superstitions, and they aren't here to haze new employees. They exist because this building, specifically this room after midnight, operates under different parameters than normal reality. You're serious? Completely. I wanted to laugh again, but her expression stopped me. She believed what she was saying, absolutely believed it. Listen, she said. In about 2 hours, you're going to experience something that doesn't make sense. Your brain is going to try to rationalize it, explain it away. Don't. Just follow the next rule in sequence. The procedures account for contingencies. Trust them. Okay, I said quietly. Good. She checked her watch. 11:05. Let me show you the log system. She walked me through the rest of the setup. How to enter calls, how to dispatch units, how to code different emergency types. The system was archaic but functional. By 11:40, I felt reasonably confident I could handle a basic shift. You're going to do fine, Diane said, gathering her things. Remember, follow the rules exactly. Don't improvise. Don't investigate. Don't open the door. Your relief is a woman named Janet Hollis. She'll arrive at 6 a.m., unlock the door from outside, and you'll brief her on anything significant. Questions? What counts as significant? You'll know. She handed me a small card with a phone number. If something happens that isn't covered by the manual, call this number. It rings in the main dispatch supervisor's office. Leave a message. Someone will call you back. What if it's urgent? Nothing that happens in this room between midnight and 6 qualifies as urgent enough to violate the rules, she said. Trust the procedures. She left at 11:55. I walked her to the door, watched her disappear down the hallway, then checked my watch. 11:56. 4 minutes until midnight. I went back to the desk, sat down, and opened the manual again. Reread the rules, trying to commit them to memory. Some made sense in a security protocol way, keeping the door locked, not answering certain phone lines. Others felt deliberately strange. Footsteps in the hallway, voices at 2:15, the screen going black at 3:30. My watch read 11:59. I took a breath, set my coffee cup to the right of the keyboard where I could reach it easily, and watched the second hand sweep toward 12. The numbers changed. Midnight. Nothing happened. The room stayed quiet, fluorescent lights humming overhead, computer terminal glowing green. I waited, listening. Still nothing. Maybe this was all an elaborate test, I thought. See if the new hire could follow arbitrary rules without questioning authority. Or maybe Diane just had a dark sense of humor. Then the phone rang. Line 1 lit up, a steady red light. I picked up the receiver, pressed the button. Mercy County Emergency Services, what is your emergency? Hi, yeah, I need to report a car in the ditch on Highway 12, about 2 miles south of the junction. Male voice, middle-aged, calm. Doesn't look like anyone's hurt, but the vehicle's blocking half the lane. Can you confirm the location? Highway 12 southbound, 2 miles south of Route 43. That's right. Are you stopped at the scene? No, I drove past. I'm about a mile down the road now. Okay, sir. We'll send a deputy to check it out. Can I get your name and callback number in case the deputy needs more information? He gave me both. I logged the call, coded it as a non-injury vehicle incident, and dispatched it to County Unit 12. Unit 12, dispatch. Static, then. Unit 12, go ahead. Report of a vehicle in the ditch, Highway 12 southbound, approximately 2 miles south of Route 43. Single vehicle, no reported injuries. Caller states it's blocking half the southbound lane. Copy dispatch en route. I logged the time, 12:04 a.m., and the unit's response. My first call, handled without incident. Maybe the night would be quiet after all. At 12:15, I heard the footsteps. They started faint, far down the hallway outside my door. A steady rhythm, shoe leather on linoleum, walking toward me. I froze, listening. The footsteps grew louder, closer. I thought about Rule 4. If you hear footsteps in the hallway outside your door between midnight and 3 a.m., do not investigate. Continue working. The footsteps will stop on their own. The steps reached my door and stopped. I stared at the door, at the brass handle. It didn't turn. No knock came. Just silence and the sense, irrational but overwhelming, that someone was standing right outside, waiting. I forced myself to look back at the computer screen, forced my hands to the keyboard, typed a meaningless note into the log just to have something to do. The words blurred. I could feel the presence on the other side of the door. 30 seconds passed, a minute. Then the footsteps resumed, walking away down the hallway, fading, gone. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The phone rang again, line 1. I answered, grateful for the distraction. Mercy County Emergency Services, what is your emergency? I need an ambulance. Female voice, young, stressed but controlled. My dad's having chest pains. We're at 47 Maple Street. I took the information, dispatched County Medic 3, kept the caller on the line until the paramedics arrived. Standard procedure. By the time I disconnected, it was 12:43. At 1 a.m., I performed my first radio check. Mercy County dispatch to all units, radio check. One by one, the units responded. County 12, County 5, County Medic 3. I logged each response with the time. Unit 8 didn't respond. I waited the full 2 minutes, noted the non-response in the log, and moved on. Rule 3 said not to recontact them. The hour between 1 and 2 passed quietly. No calls, no footsteps. I read through the manual, memorizing the rules, trying not to think about how specifically weird they were. Why 2:15 to 2:35 for the voices? Why did the screen go black at 3:30? Why wouldn't line 3 be operational? At 2 a.m., I performed the second radio check. All units responded this time, including 8. At 2:14, I checked my watch and waited. 2:15 a.m. From the main dispatch room, through the closed door at the far end of the hallway, I heard voices. Not shouting, not arguing, just normal conversation, the kind of overlapping chatter you'd hear in any office. Multiple people, words I couldn't quite make out, punctuated by occasional laughter. It sounded like a full shift working, casual and routine, but the main room was empty. I knew it was empty. Diane had told me the overnight shift was solo, and I'd seen the schedule myself. One dispatcher, back room, midnight to 6. The voices continued. A man saying something about routing, a woman responding, her tone light, papers shuffling, a phone ringing briefly, then stopping. I sat perfectly still, eyes on my terminal, hands on the desk. Rule 7. Between 2:15 and 2:35 a.m., you may hear voices in the main dispatch room. The main room will be empty. Do not go investigate. The voices will stop by 2:35 a.m. The voices went on. Ordinary work sounds, the background noise of a functioning dispatch center. If I hadn't been told the room was empty, I would have assumed people were out there, working their shift, completely normal. I checked my watch. 2:21, 14 more minutes. The phone rang. Line 1. I picked up, almost grateful. Mercy County Emergency Services, what is your emergency? Hi, is Sarah there? I paused. The voice was male, older, friendly, casual, like he was calling a friend. I'm sorry, I said, reciting the response from Rule 8. No one by that name works here. You sure? Sarah Klein? She's a dispatcher, works overnights. I disconnected. My hand shook slightly as I set the receiver down. The manual said, tell them no one by that name works here and disconnect. Do not engage in further conversation. I'd followed it exactly. The voices in the main room continued, oblivious. Someone laughed. Someone else said something about coffee. 2:33 a.m. At 2:35 exactly, the voices stopped. Not faded, stopped, mid-sentence like someone had hit a switch. The silence that followed felt dense, absolute. I sat there, listening to my own breathing, the hum of the computer, the buzz of the fluorescent lights. Normal sounds, real sounds. At 2:45, line 3 lit up. A red light, steady, in the middle of the phone console. I stared at it. Lines 3 through 8 weren't operational. The manual said so explicitly in Rule 2. The light stayed on. Then it started ringing. A shrill, old-fashioned ring, the kind mechanical bells make, once, twice, 3 times. Rule 6. If line 3 lights up, ignore it. If it rings, do not answer. If it continues ringing for more than 5 minutes, unplug the phone console from the wall, wait 60 seconds, and plug it back in. I checked my watch. 2:46. I would wait until 2:51, then unplug if it was still ringing. It rang and rang and rang. I tried to focus on the computer screen, on the log entries, on anything but that sound. Each ring felt like it was getting louder, more insistent. My hand moved toward the receiver twice, some automatic instinct to answer a ringing phone. I caught myself both times. 2:51. The phone was still ringing. I pushed my chair back, crouched down, and found the phone cord running to a wall jack behind the desk. I gripped the plug and pulled. It came free with a click. The ringing stopped immediately. I counted 60 seconds on my watch, hands still shaking slightly, then plugged it back in. All the lines were dark, normal. I sat back down. At 3 a.m., I performed my radio check. All units responded. At 3:15, my terminal displayed a new call record I hadn't entered. It appeared suddenly, between one breath and the next, a full entry, complete with timestamp, address, and caller information. The name field read, External Request. The address was listed as 2847 Cutter Road. I stared at it. Rule 9. Your computer terminal will sometimes display a call record you did not enter. The caller name will be listed as External Request. Do not dispatch units to this address. Delete the record and note the time in your log. I highlighted the entry, deleted it, and wrote in my handwritten log, 3:17 a.m. External Request Record appeared. Address 2847 Cutter Road. Record deleted per Rule 9. At 3:30 precisely, my screen went black. No warning, no flicker. The green text vanished, leaving a dead black screen. I checked the power light on the terminal, still on. The computer was running, just not displaying anything. Rule 11 said to wait up to 90 seconds. Don't restart the computer. Don't attempt to leave the room. I waited. The darkness on the screen seemed absolute, deeper than it should be. I caught myself leaning back, away from it, like it might spill out of the monitor. 40 seconds, 50. At 73 seconds, the screen flickered and the green text returned. My log entries, my call records, everything exactly as it had been. Normal. I checked my watch. 3:31 a.m., 2.5 hours until my shift ended. The phone rang. Line 1. Mercy County Emergency Services, what is your emergency? Yeah, I need police out to Cutter Road. Male voice, tense. There's someone in my yard, looking in my windows. What's your address, sir? 891 Cutter Road. Can you see the person now? No, they moved around the side of the house. Look, I need someone here now. I've got kids sleeping. I'm dispatching a deputy now, sir. Can you stay on the line with me until they arrive? Yeah, okay. I dispatched County Unit 5, kept the caller on the line, talked him through staying inside with doors locked until the deputy arrived. Standard procedure, handled smoothly. The call lasted 14 minutes. Unit 5 cleared the scene at 3:52, reporting no one found in the area. At 4 a.m., I performed my radio check. All units responded except Unit 12. I waited the full 2 minutes, noted the non-response, moved on. Between 4 and 5, nothing happened. No calls, no footsteps, no strange occurrences. I read through the manual again, then started on a crossword puzzle book I'd brought. The normalcy felt almost suspicious after everything else. At 4:37, I heard tapping on the window. Light, rhythmic, tap, tap, tap. Pause, tap, 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 pause. The blinds were closed. I couldn't see out, and nothing could see in. Rule 5. If you hear tapping on the window, do not open the blinds to look. Note the time and continue working. I wrote in my log 4:37 a.m., tapping on window. Blinds remain closed per Rule 5. The tapping continued for 3 minutes, then stopped. At 5 a.m., I performed my radio check. All units responded. The last hour passed slowly. I kept checking my watch, counting down. 5:30, 5:45. At 5:55, I started my end-of-shift procedures, verified all phone lines were dark, confirmed the radio was set to channel 6, made sure my terminal displayed the main screen. At 6:02 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Different from the midnight footsteps. Faster, more purposeful. They reached my door and stopped, and I heard a key sliding into the lock. The door opened. A woman in her 50s with short brown hair and a county jacket stood there, holding a coffee cup. "Morning," she said. "You must be the new overnight. I'm Janet." Morning, I said, standing. Anything I should brief you on? Any major incidents? One vehicle in a ditch, one medical call, one prowler complaint, all handled. Quiet night then, she smiled. You did fine. Go home, get some sleep. See you tomorrow. I gathered my things, logged my end time, 6:05 a.m., and closed the manual. Walked past Janet into the hallway, down the stairs, out into the parking lot where dawn was turning the sky pale gray. I sat in my car for 5 minutes before starting it, hands on the steering wheel, replaying the night, the footsteps, the voices, the ringing phone, the black screen, all explained by the rules, all handled by following procedures. I drove home through empty streets, climbed into bed, and slept until 2 in the afternoon. That night, I returned at 11:45. Janet was waiting to brief me. Anything unusual today? I asked. Define unusual, she said, smiling slightly. You read the manual? Yes. Then you'll be fine. Same procedures. Same rules. She gathered her things. Oh, if you get a call asking for Marcus, same as Sarah. No one by that name works here. Disconnect immediately. Got it. She left at midnight. I locked the door behind her. My second shift started the same as the first. Quiet, routine, a drunk driver call at 12:20, a noise complaint at 12:45, radio check at 1 a.m., all units responding. At 1:38, line 3 lit up and started ringing. I checked my watch and waited. At 1:43, after 5 minutes of continuous ringing, I unplugged the phone console, waited 60 seconds, plugged it back in. The ringing stopped. At 2:15, the voices started in the main room. I sat at my desk, working on my log, listening to the Phantom Dispatch Center operate for exactly 20 minutes before falling silent at 2:35. At 2:53, my terminal displayed an external request for an address on Cutter Road. I deleted it, logged the time. At 3:30, my screen went black for 81 seconds. At 4:09, I heard footsteps in the hallway. They stopped outside my door for 42 seconds, then walked away. At 4:55, someone tapped on the window. I noted the time and kept working. My relief arrived at 6:04. I briefed Janet, went home, slept. The third night was the same. The fourth, the fifth. The rules held. The procedures worked. I stopped questioning them and simply followed them, step by step, exactly as written. The strangeness became routine, just another part of the job, like answering phones or dispatching units. By my second week, I could time everything. The footsteps always came between midnight and 1:30. The voices always lasted from 2:15 to 2:35. Line 3 rang once or twice a night, always for at least 5 minutes. The screen went black at 3:30 for 70 to 90 seconds. Window tapping happened 3 or 4 times a week, usually between 4:30 and 5:15. I learned to relax into it. Bring a book for the quiet hours, keep coffee hot, follow each rule precisely when its conditions appeared. The night shift became almost comfortable. Then, on my 11th night, things changed. It started the same as always. I arrived at 11:45, relieved Janet at midnight, locked the door. First call came in at 12:33, domestic disturbance on Oak Street. I dispatched Unit 5. Radio check at 1 a.m., all units responded. At 1:48, I heard footsteps in the hallway, but they didn't stop at my door. They kept walking, past my door, continuing down the hallway toward the stairwell. I heard them descend the stairs, the sound fading, then silence. I sat very still, waiting. Rule 4 said the footsteps would stop on their own. It didn't specify where they'd stop. I made a note, 1:48 a.m. Footsteps in hallway, past door, continued to stairs. At 2 a.m., I performed my radio check. Mercy County dispatch to all units, radio check. County 5 responded. County Medic 3 responded. County 12 responded. Unit 8 didn't respond. I waited the full 2 minutes. Nothing. I logged the non-response and moved on, per Rule 3. At 2:15, the voices started in the main room. But tonight they sounded different. Louder, maybe, or more distinct. I could almost make out words. Someone was talking about routing protocols. Someone else mentioned a call on Cutter Road. A third voice, female, young, said something about rule amendments. I focused on my screen, tried not to listen. At 2:28, one of the voices said my name. Not my full name. just my first name, spoken clearly in the middle of a sentence I couldn't quite hear. A woman's voice, casual, like she was mentioning me in passing to a colleague. My hands went cold. Rule 7 didn't say anything about hearing your name. It just said the voices would stop at 2:35 and not to investigate. I sat motionless, staring at the terminal, while the voices continued for 7 more minutes. They stopped at 2:35 exactly. At 2:41, the phone rang. Line 1. Mercy County Emergency Services. What is your emergency? Is Marcus there? Male voice, different from the one who'd asked for Sarah. Younger, urgent. No one by that name works here, I said, and disconnected. My hand was shaking when I set the receiver down. At 3 a.m., I performed my radio check. County 5 responded. County Medic 3 responded. County 12 responded. Unit 8 didn't respond again. At 3:17, my terminal displayed an external request. Address, 2891 Cutter Road. I deleted it, logged the time. At 3:30, my screen went black. I waited. At 90 seconds exactly, it should have come back. It stayed black. I checked my watch. 95 seconds, 100, 110. The screen remained dead black. 120 seconds, 2 full minutes. Rule 11 said to wait up to 90 seconds. It said not to restart the computer or attempt to leave. It didn't say what to do if the screen stayed black longer than 90 seconds. I sat there, staring at the black screen, my own reflection just barely visible in the dark glass. Behind my reflection, I could see the room, the desk, the filing cabinet, the closed door. And in the corner of the reflection, near the window, a shape that shouldn't be there. I didn't turn around. I kept staring at the screen, at the reflection. The shape was tall, dark, and perfectly still. Human-shaped, but slightly wrong. Proportions not quite right. 150 seconds. The shape in the reflection moved slightly, tilting its head. 160 seconds. The screen flickered. Green text returned. My log entries, exactly as they'd been. Normal. I didn't look at the corner. I kept my eyes on the screen and made a note. 3:30 a.m. Screen black for approximately 160 seconds, longer than standard duration. I didn't write about the shape in the reflection. At 4 a.m., I performed my radio check. Mercy County dispatch to all units, radio check. County 5, good check. County Medic 3, good check. County 12, good check. Static. Then through the static, Unit 8. Just those 2 words. No good check. No proper radio protocol. Just the unit designation, spoken in a flat, toneless voice. I logged it. 4 a.m. Unit 8 responded to radio check. But something about that voice bothered me. It didn't sound like any of the other deputies or medics. It didn't sound quite human. At 4:36, the phone rang. Line 1. Mercy County Emergency Services. What is your emergency? I need help. Female voice, young, frightened. Someone's trying to break into my house. What's your address, ma'am? I'm at... Static cut across the line. Cutter Road. Can you repeat your address? You're breaking up. More static then. Mile marker 8. Please, he's at the back door. Ma'am, I need your exact address to send help. The static cleared suddenly. Her voice came through perfectly clear. 2913 Cutter Road. I froze. Cutter Road past mile marker 7. Rule 12. If dispatch requests come in for addresses on Cutter Road past mile marker 7, inform the caller that area is outside county jurisdiction and disconnect. Do not dispatch units. Ma'am, I said, that area is outside county jurisdiction. You'll need to contact... Please, her voice rose, genuinely terrified. He's breaking the glass. I can hear him. Please send someone. I'm sorry, that address is outside our jurisdiction. You need to call. She screamed, a real scream, raw and desperate, then the line went dead. I sat there, receiver pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. Every instinct said to dispatch someone, to send help, to do my job. But the rule was explicit. Outside jurisdiction. Disconnect. Do not dispatch. I hung up and logged it. 4:38 a.m. Emergency call from Cutter Road past mile marker 7. Informed caller of jurisdiction limits per Rule 12. No units dispatched. My hands were shaking. That scream had sounded real, but the rules said, don't dispatch. The rules existed for a reason. I tried to focus on my crossword puzzle. Couldn't. Tried to review the manual. Couldn't. At 5 a.m., I performed my radio check. County 5 responded. County Medic 3 responded. County 12 responded. Unit 8. Same flat voice, same lack of proper protocol. I logged it. At 5:37, someone knocked on my door. 3 sharp raps, pause, 3 more raps. Rule 1, door remains locked from midnight to 6 a.m. Do not open for knocking, voices, or any audible disturbance. I stared at the door. The knock came again. 3 raps, precise and evenly spaced. Then a voice. Dispatch. It's Unit 8. I need to come in and use your phone. Radio's down. The voice sounded normal. Professional, exactly like a deputy would sound. But Unit 8 had been responding wrong all night, and the rule said don't open for voices. Dispatch? The voice again. You there? I really need to use the landline. I stayed silent. Didn't move. Watched the door handle. It turned slightly, testing. The lock held. Come on. I know you're in there. I can see the light under the door. A pause. Just open up for a second. It's important. I kept my eyes on the door and my hands on the desk. 30 seconds passed. A minute. The handle stopped turning. Footsteps walked away down the hall. I logged it. 5:37 a.m. Knocking on door. Voice claimed to be Unit 8 requesting entry. Did not open per Rule 1. At 6:03, Janet arrived. She unlocked the door from outside, stepped in with her coffee, saw my face. Rough night. Yeah. Anything I should know about? I briefed her on the calls, mentioned Unit 8's strange radio responses, the knock at the door. She listened, nodding. Unit 8's been weird lately, she said. Did you open the door? No. Good. She set her coffee down. Go home. Sleep. I drove home in full daylight, exhausted but wired, couldn't sleep until noon, and even then I kept waking up, thinking I heard knocking. When I arrived for my 12th shift, there was a new page inserted in the manual. Janet handed it to me before she left. Amendments, she said. Came down from Diane this afternoon. Read them carefully. Some of the rules have changed. Changed how? Tightened. There have been incidents, other locations. They're updating protocols system-wide. She checked her watch. I need to go. Read the amendments before midnight. She left at 11:57. I locked the door and sat down with the new page. Amendments to overnight operational protocols, effective immediately. Amendment 1. Rule 4 is updated as follows. If you hear footsteps in the hallway between midnight and 3 a.m., remain seated at your desk. Do not stand. Do not approach the door. If footsteps stop outside your door for longer than 2 minutes, note the time in your log, but continue working. Do not verify if someone is there. Amendment 2. Rule 7 is updated as follows. Between 2:15 and 2:35 a.m., you may hear voices in the main dispatch room. Do not leave your seat. If you hear your name spoken by the voices, acknowledge it silently by writing "Acknowledged" in your log, but do not respond verbally or investigate. Amendment 3. Rule 8 is expanded to include additional names. If a caller asks for Sarah, Marcus, Thomas, or Claire, tell them no one by that name works here and disconnect immediately. If the same caller calls back within 5 minutes asking for a different name from this list, unplug the phone console for 60 seconds before answering further calls. Amendment 4. A new rule is added regarding radio traffic. If a unit responds to radio check with only their designation, e.g., Unit 8 without good check or proper protocol, do not acknowledge the response. Log it as non-standard response, and do not dispatch that unit for any calls during the remainder of your shift. Amendment 5. Rule 12 is updated with additional restrictions. No addresses on Cutter Road past mile marker 7 should receive dispatch. Additionally, if you receive 3 or more calls regarding Cutter Road, any mile marker, in a single shift, note this pattern in your log and contact the supervisor line immediately after your shift ends. Do not dispatch units to any Cutter Road address after the 3rd call. Amendment 6. Rule 1 is expanded. The door remains locked from midnight to 6 a.m. If someone claims to be law enforcement, medical personnel, or your relief arriving early, do not open the door. Your relief will arrive at or after 6 a.m. only. Anyone claiming to need entry before 6 a.m. is not authorized, regardless of their stated reason. Amendment 7. A new rule regarding personal items. Keep your cell phone face down on the desk. If it rings or vibrates between midnight and 6 a.m., do not answer it. You may check messages after 6 a.m. only. Amendment 8. Rule 11 is updated. When your screen goes black at 3:30 a.m., close your eyes for the duration. Do not look at the black screen. Count silently until the screen restores, then open your eyes and resume work. Amendment 9. A new rule regarding the window. If tapping on the window occurs, note the time but do not count the number of taps. Do not attempt to establish any pattern in the tapping. If tapping continues for longer than 5 minutes, place a piece of paper over the small gap at the bottom of the blinds where the windowsill is visible. Amendment 10. If you observe or hear any violation of the rules occurring in the building, footsteps entering the main dispatch room during your shift, voices before 2:15 a.m. or after 2:35 a.m., doors opening in other areas, note it in your log, but take no action. These violations do not apply to you and are not your concern. I read through the amendments twice. They were more specific, more restrictive. The tone had shifted from, "Here are procedures," to, "Here are survival protocols." At midnight, my shift began. The first 2 hours were quiet. One fender bender at 12:43, a medical call at 1:15, radio check at 1 a.m., all units responding normally with proper protocol. At 2 a.m., radio check again. County 5, Medic 3, and 12 all responded correctly. Then, Unit 8, just the designation, flat voice. I logged it as non-standard response per Amendment 4 and made a note not to dispatch Unit 8 for the remainder of the shift. At 2:15, the voices started in the main room. I stayed seated, working on my log, listening. The usual chatter, overlapping conversations, phone rings. At 2:23, a female voice said my name clearly. Talked to her about the routing. I wrote "acknowledged" in my log, per Amendment 2, and kept working. The voices stopped at 2:35. At 3 a.m., radio check. 5, 3, and 12 responded. Unit 8 gave another non-standard response. At 3:30, my screen went black. I closed my eyes immediately, per Amendment 8. Sat in darkness behind my own eyelids, counting silently. 1, 2, 3, 4. With my eyes closed, I became aware of other sounds. The hum of the lights, the faint buzz of the computer, my own breathing, and something else. A sound like fabric moving, like someone shifting their weight from one foot to another, in the room with me. I kept my eyes closed and kept counting. 27, 28, 29. The fabric sound again, closer to my left, near the filing cabinet. 41, 42, 43. I wanted desperately to open my eyes, to look, to verify I was alone. But Amendment 8 was explicit. Eyes closed until the screen restores. 68, 69, 70. Breathing that wasn't mine, slow and steady, coming from somewhere behind my left shoulder. 83, 84, 85. The screen flickered. I could see the glow through my closed eyelids. I waited 3 more seconds to be sure, then opened my eyes. The room was empty. Screen showed my normal interface, everything exactly as it should be. I logged it, 3:30 a.m., screen blackout. Eyes closed per Amendment 8, duration approximately 88 seconds. I didn't write about the sounds. At 4 a.m., radio check. 5 and 3 responded properly. 12 didn't respond. Unit 8 gave a non-standard response. At 4:38, the phone rang. Line 1. Mercy County Emergency Services. What is your emergency? Please, you have to send someone. Female voice, different from before, older. My husband went out to check on a noise 20 minutes ago and he hasn't come back. I'm at 2814 Cutter Road. Cutter Road, past mile marker 7. Ma'am, that address is outside county jurisdiction. I know what you're going to say, but please, I called the sheriff's office and they told me to call you. They said you handle overnight. Please, something's wrong. Ma'am, I cannot dispatch units to that address. You need to contact... They told me you'd say that. Her voice broke. They told me you'd refuse, But they said to tell you exactly this. Protocol 17 override. They said you'd understand. I had no idea what Protocol 17 override meant. It wasn't in my manual anywhere. Ma'am, I don't have any protocol by that name. I can't help you. Please, she was crying now. Please, my husband. I disconnected per Rule 12. I sat there, staring at the phone, feeling sick. But the rules were explicit. No dispatch past mile marker 7. No exceptions mentioned. I logged it. 4:38 a.m. Emergency call from 2814 Cutter Road. Informed caller of jurisdiction limits per Rule 12. No units dispatched. That was my first call to Cutter Road this shift. If 2 more came in, I'd have to contact the supervisor line after my shift ended, per Amendment 5. At 5 a.m., radio check. County 5 responded. Medic 3 responded. 12 and 8 didn't respond at all. At 5:41, someone knocked on my door. Dispatch, it's Sheriff Hendricks. I need you to open up. We have a situation. I didn't recognize the name. I'd never met the sheriff. Didn't know if there even was a Sheriff Hendricks in Mercy County. I know you've got a rule about keeping the door locked. The voice continued. But I'm overriding it. This is an emergency. Open the door. I stayed silent. God damn it, I can hear you in there. This is a direct order. Open this door right now. The handle turned, testing the lock. It held. Fine. I'm going to get the master key. I'll be back in 2 minutes. You'd better have this door open when I return. Footsteps walked away. I checked my watch. 5:43. Janet would arrive in 17 minutes, maybe less if she was early. I sat perfectly still watching the door. 2 minutes passed. 3-4. At 5:47, the footsteps returned. The handle turned again, harder this time. Something scratched at the lock, metal on metal. Last chance, the voice said. Open the door, or I'm writing you up for insubordination. I didn't move. The scratching continued for another 30 seconds, then stopped. The footsteps walked away. At 6:04, Janet's key turned in the lock. She opened the door, normal and professional, carrying her coffee. Morning, how was it? Someone tried to get in, claimed to be Sheriff Hendricks. Her expression didn't change. Did you open the door? No. Good. There's no Sheriff Hendricks. There hasn't been one in Mercy County for 8 years. We have an elected sheriff, named Paula Martinez. She set her coffee down. Go home. I briefed her on the rest, the Cutter Road call, the units not responding to radio checks, and left. Over the next week, the nights got worse. On my 13th shift, I received 2 calls for Cutter Road addresses past mile marker 7. Different callers, different emergencies. Both times, I refused dispatch per the rules. Both times, the callers begged, pleaded, threatened. Both times, I disconnected. On my 14th shift, I received the 3rd Cutter Road call. Per Amendment 5, I had to contact the supervisor line after my shift ended. I called the number, got a voicemail system, left a message detailing all 3 calls. No one called back. On my 15th shift, the voices in the main room spoke about me continuously, from 2:15 to 2:35, discussing my performance, my rule compliance, my suitability for long-term assignment. I wrote "acknowledged" in my log and kept working. On my 16th shift, during the 3:30 blackout with my eyes closed, I heard someone whisper my name right next to my ear. I kept my eyes closed and kept counting. On my 17th shift, Unit 8 responded to the midnight radio check with proper protocol for the first time in a week. But at 3 a.m., when I performed the radio check, the voice that responded as County 5 sounded exactly like the voice that had claimed to be Sheriff Hendricks. I logged it as non-standard and didn't dispatch County 5 for the rest of the night. On my 18th shift, I found a new insert in the manual. Not amendments this time, something different. Emergency protocols, for use during code. Black conditions only. Code black conditions are defined as power failure lasting longer than 5 minutes, loss of phone service on both Line 1 and Line 2, radio failure on both Channel 6 and Channel 9, 3 or more units giving non-standard responses during a single shift, or supervisor declaration via secure channel. During code black conditions, the following emergency protocols supersede standard rules. Emergency Protocol 1. If power fails, switch to backup lighting system. Flashlight in top desk drawer, right side. Do not leave your chair for any reason. The flashlight beam should be kept aimed at the desk surface only. Do not shine it toward the door, window, or corners of the room. Emergency protocol. 2. If phone service fails completely, monitor the radio continuously on channel 6. If radio also fails, sit silently and wait. Do not attempt to repair equipment. Do not attempt to leave the room. Emergency protocol. 3. If you hear sounds indicating entry to the main dispatch room, doors opening, multiple footsteps, furniture moving, turn off your desk lamp and sit in darkness. Remain silent. Do not make any sound until you hear your relief unlocking the door at 6 a.m. Emergency protocol. 4. If your door handle turns and the lock begins to fail, move to the corner opposite the door, back right corner behind the filing cabinet. Face the corner. Place your hands over your ears. Count to 100. Do not turn around until you hear your relief's voice calling your name. Emergency protocol. 5. If you see movement in your peripheral vision while working, do not look directly at it. Keep your eyes on your computer screen. Movement that is not directly observed will not approach closer. Movement that is directly observed may cross thresholds. I read through the emergency protocols 3 times. They were the most explicit yet about actual danger, not just don't investigate or note the time, but active survival instructions, hiding positions, defensive behaviors. I checked the desk drawer. The flashlight was there, a heavy black mag light with fresh batteries. That night, my 18th shift started normally. Radio check at midnight, all units responding properly. One call at 12:34, noise complaint on Willow Drive. I dispatched County 5. At 1 a.m., radio check, 5, 3, and 12 responded normally. Unit 8 gave a non-standard response. At 1:15, County 12 gave a non-standard response during a routine status check. 2 units non-standard in 1 shift. At 2 a.m., radio check. County 5 gave a non-standard response. 3 units, that met the criteria for code black conditions. I made a note in my log, 2 a.m., 3 units, 8, 12, 5, showing non-standard responses. Code black conditions met per emergency protocol criteria. I reviewed the emergency protocols. My hands were shaking slightly. At 2:15, the voices started in the main room. They were different tonight, louder, more agitated. I couldn't make out specific words, but the tone was urgent, almost arguing. At 2:27, I heard furniture moving in the main room. Heavy scraping sounds, like desks being dragged across the floor. That wasn't part of Rule 7. The voices were supposed to be just voices, conversation, paper shuffling, normal office sounds, not furniture moving. The scraping continued. Something heavy toppled over with a crash. At 2:35, the voices stopped. The furniture sounds didn't. I sat very still, listening to something being dragged across the main room floor, pushed against a wall, moved again, methodical, deliberate. This wasn't normal code black yet, just an escalation. But it was close. At 2:48, my phone console lit up. Not line 1 or 2, line 3, line 4, line 5, line 6, line 7, line 8. All 6 forbidden lines, lit up simultaneously, all ringing at once. Different tones, different pitches, creating a discordant jangle that filled the room. I stared at the console. Rule 6 said if line 3 rang for more than 5 minutes, unplug and reset. But it didn't say what to do if all the forbidden lines rang at once. I decided the principle was the same. I waited, checking my watch. If they were still ringing at 2:53, I'd unplug. They rang and rang. The overlapping tones made my head hurt. At 2:53 exactly, I unplugged the phone console. The room went silent. I counted 60 seconds, then plugged it back in. All the lines were dark, normal. At 3 a.m., I attempted a radio check. Mercy County Dispatch to all units, radio check. Static. Mercy County Dispatch to all units, radio check. More static than overlapping voices all at once, all saying different things. County 5, good. Unit 8, Medic 3 responding. 12 is CAC received. The transmissions overlapped and contradicted each other. Some proper protocol, some not, all simultaneous. I couldn't parse them. I logged it. 3:00 a.m., radio check. Multiple simultaneous overlapping transmissions, unable to confirm proper responses. At 3:30, my screen went black. I closed my eyes immediately and started counting. 1, 2, 3. The fabric sound again, closer than before, right next to my chair. 15, 16, 17. Breathing, slow and steady, inches from my face. 28, 29, 30. Something touched my shoulder. Light pressure like fingers resting there. I kept my eyes closed, kept counting. The touch remained, cold even through my shirt. 59, 60, 61. The pressure increased slightly. The breathing continued. 85, 86, 87. The screen flickered. I could sense the change in light. I kept my eyes closed for 3 more seconds, then opened them. The room was empty. My shoulder felt cold where the touch had been. I logged it. 3:30 a.m. Screen blackout. Duration approximately 90 seconds. Eyes closed per Amendment 8. At 4 a.m., I attempted another radio check. Got the same overlapping static and contradictory transmissions. Logged it. At 4:33, my desk lamp flickered and went out. I sat in darkness, listening. The computer terminal was still on. I could see its green glow. But the overhead fluorescence and my desk lamp were dead. Power failure. Emergency Protocol 1. Use the flashlight in the desk drawer. Keep the beam aimed at the desk surface. Don't shine it toward door, window, or corners. I opened the right desk drawer, found the mag light, clicked it on. The beam was bright, almost too bright. I angled it down at my desk, at my log, at the phone console. In the reduced light, I could see movement in my peripheral vision. Shapes shifting near the window, near the door, near the corner where the filing cabinet stood. Emergency Protocol 5. Movement that is not directly observed will not approach closer. Movement that is directly observed may cross thresholds. I kept my eyes on the lit circle of my desk, watched my log, my hands, the phone console. Did not look at the movement, did not acknowledge it. The shapes continued shifting at the edges of my vision. Closer now, just beyond the flashlight's circle. I could hear fabric moving, feet sliding across carpet, breathing from multiple sources. I sat perfectly still, flashlight trained on my desk, eyes on my hands. At 4:48, the power came back on. Fluorescence flickered twice, then steadied. Desk lamp blazed bright. I clicked off the flashlight and set it on the desk. The room was empty. I logged it. 4:33, 4:48 a.m. Power failure. Emergency Protocol 1 followed. Power restored. At 5 a.m., I attempted a radio check, got static and overlapping voices again. At 5:37, the phone rang. Line 1. Mercy County Emergency Services. What is your emergency? I need help. Male voice. Unfamiliar. There's been an accident on Cutter Road, mile marker 9. Vehicle overturned, multiple injuries. We need ambulance and fire immediately. Cutter Road past mile marker 7. But he said multiple injuries, vehicle overturned. Sir, that address is outside county jurisdiction. Listen to me very carefully. His voice changed, became formal, precise. This is Deputy Frank Morrison, County Sheriff's Department. I am on scene at a legitimate emergency. I am requesting dispatch of medical and fire units to this location. Do you understand? I hesitated. The rule said no dispatch past mile marker 7, no exceptions mentioned. Sir, I cannot dispatch to that address. It's outside jurisdiction per my protocols. Your protocols are wrong, his voice rose. There are people dying here. I'm a goddamn deputy sheriff giving you a direct order to send help. I'm sorry, sir. I have to follow my procedures. Then you're responsible for their deaths. You understand that? Their blood is on your hands. He was shouting now, genuinely furious, or genuinely desperate, or something mimicking those emotions perfectly. I disconnected. My hands were shaking. I logged it. 5:37 a.m. Emergency call from Cutter Road, mile marker 9. Claimed multiple injuries. Refused dispatch per Rule 12. That was my 4th Cutter Road call. More than 3 in a single shift. Per Amendment 5, I needed to contact the supervisor line after my shift. At 5:51, I heard the furniture moving in the main dispatch room again. Heavy scraping, dragging sounds. Then footsteps. Multiple sets. Walking through the main room, moving toward the hallway that led to my door. Emergency Protocol 3. If you hear sounds indicating entry to the main dispatch room, turn off your desk lamp and sit in darkness. Remain silent. I switched off the lamp. The room went dark except for the terminal's green glow. I sat perfectly still. The footsteps reached the hallway. Multiple people, walking in synchronized step, coming closer. They reached my door and stopped. The handle turned, slowly, testing the lock. It held. The handle turned harder. I heard metal stress, the lock mechanism groaning. Then I heard something I hadn't heard before, a key sliding into the lock from the outside. The same sound Janet made at 6 a.m., but it was only 5:54. The lock turned. The door began to open. Emergency Protocol 4. If your door handle turns and the lock begins to fail, move to the corner opposite the door. Face the corner. Place your hands over your ears. Count to 100. I moved fast. Out of my chair, around the desk, to the back right corner behind the filing cabinet. I faced the corner, placed my hands over my ears, and started counting. 1, 2, 3. Even through my hands, I heard the door open fully, heard footsteps enter the room, multiple sets. 15, 16, 17. The footsteps moved around the room. Methodical, searching. I heard my chair being moved. Papers rustling, the computer keyboard clicking. 38, 39, 40. One set of footsteps approached my corner. Stopped a few feet behind me. I could feel someone standing there, looking at the back of my head. 61, 62, 63. Something touched my hair, gentle, curious. I kept counting, kept my hands pressed over my ears, kept my face toward the corner. 87, 88, 89. The touch moved down to my neck. Cold fingers. They rested there, not threatening, just present. 98, 99, 100. The touch withdrew. Footsteps walked away. I heard my door close. The lock click. I waited 10 more seconds, then turned around. The room was empty. My chair was back at the desk. My log was open to a new page, blank. The computer terminal displayed my normal interface. The clock read 5:57. At 6:05, Janet unlocked the door from outside. She stepped in, saw me standing in the corner, and stopped. "You okay?" "No." She looked around the room. "Code black?" 3 non-standard radio responses. Power failure. Door lock failed. Jesus. She set her coffee down. "Did you follow the emergency protocols?" "Yes, all of them." "Then you did fine." She pulled out the chair. "Sit. Brief me." I briefed her on everything. The calls, the radio issues, the power failure, the door opening. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she said, "I'll file this with Diane. You might get called in for a supplemental briefing." "What's happening? Why is it getting worse?" She looked at me for a long moment. "I don't know. It goes in cycles sometimes. Gets active for a few weeks, then quiets down. You've been through the worst of it now. Should stabilize soon." "Should?" "Probably." She smiled slightly. "Go home. Sleep." I went home and didn't sleep at all. That afternoon at 3 p.m., my cell phone rang. "Diane, we need to talk about your shift last night," she said. "Can you come to the center at 4? "Sure." I met her in the small break room on the first floor. She had a manila folder open on the table. "I've reviewed Janet's report on your Code Black incident," she said. "You followed protocols correctly throughout. That's good." "It tried to get in my room." "Yes." "What is it? What are we dealing with?" She closed the folder. "I don't have a complete answer to that. What I can tell you is that this building has been host to overnight dispatch for 43 years. In that time, we've had 17 people work the position you're working. 12 of them followed the rules and completed their assignments successfully. 5 didn't. What happened to the 5? 2 quit after their first shift. 1 was hospitalized after a breakdown. 1 disappeared from the room during shift. We found the door open at 6 a.m. No sign of them, no calls or messages. 1 violated protocol deliberately and..." She paused. "We found them the next morning, changed. Not physically, but mentally. They couldn't speak coherently, couldn't recognize anyone, couldn't function. They're in long-term care now." I sat back in my chair. "And nobody's ever figured out why this happens?" "There are theories. Old building, strange location, electromagnetic anomalies, Psychological stress, creating shared hallucinations, nothing conclusive. She opened the folder again, pulled out a new sheet. I'm issuing you updated guidance, additional protocols for extreme situations. After last night, you've earned them. She slid the sheet across. It was titled, Final Contingencies, Last Resort Protocols Only. Read it here, she said. Don't take it with you. It doesn't go in your manual. It's for emergency use only, if you're in immediate danger. I read, Final Contingency 1. If Emergency Protocol 4 fails and entities remain in your room after you count to 100, state clearly, I am on duty. I claim right of position. You are not authorized here. Repeat 3 times. This will not make them leave, but it will prevent direct contact. Final Contingency 2. If your door is opened from the outside before 6 a.m. and will not close or relock, wedge your chair under the handle and return to your desk. Do not attempt to leave the building. Continue your shift from your desk. Your relief will clear the obstruction at 6 a.m. Final Contingency 3. If you see a figure that is clearly present, not peripheral movement, not shadow, but fully visible in normal light, do not acknowledge it verbally or through eye contact. Treat it as furniture, something to navigate around, but not interact with. Continue your duties. It will not touch you if you do not acknowledge it. Final Contingency 4. If at any point you believe you are in immediate mortal danger and all other protocols have failed, exit through the window. Drop to the parking lot below, approximately 12 feet, move to your vehicle, and drive to the nearest 24-hour location with people present. Call the supervisor line and report a full evacuation. Do not return to the building for any reason. Your relief will be notified to secure the room remotely. I looked up at Diane. Has anyone ever used Final Contingency 4? Twice. Both times the situation resolved after they left. Both times they were reassigned to day shifts. What about the person who disappeared? They didn't evacuate. They opened the door and went into the hallway. That's different. Evacuating through the window to the parking lot is escaping the boundary. Going deeper into the building is... She shook her head. Don't go into the building. If you leave your room, leave through the window. I read the protocols again, memorizing them. You're doing well, Diane said. Better than most. You have good instincts for the work. Just keep following the rules and you'll be fine. What if the rules aren't enough? They've been enough for 12 people over 43 years. They'll be enough for you. She took the paper back. See you tonight. My 19th shift started at midnight. I was exhausted, running on 3 hours of sleep, but I showed up, relieved Janet, locked the door. The night was quiet. Normal calls, normal radio checks, normal procedures, no code black conditions, no emergency protocols needed. The footsteps came at 12:37 and stopped outside my door for exactly 90 seconds. The voices at 2:15 spoke for their allotted 20 minutes and stopped. Line 3 rang from 2:49 to 2:56. I unplugged and reset. The screen went black at 3:30 for 73 seconds while I kept my eyes closed. Routine, manageable. By 5 a.m., I was almost relaxed. One more hour, one more radio check, then Janet would arrive and I could go home and sleep for 12 hours straight. At 5:43, the phone rang, line 1. Mercy County Emergency Services. What is your emergency? Please help me. Female voice, young, barely above a whisper. I'm at 2901 Cutter Road. There's something outside my house. It's trying to get in. Cutter Road past mile marker 7. Ma'am, that address is outside county jurisdiction. I know the rules. Her voice was eerily calm now. I know you can't send help. I know you have to disconnect. But I need you to know something before you do. I need you to understand. Ma'am, I'm calling from the overflow center. I'm you. 24 years from now, you're going to take the wrong call and dispatch a unit past mile marker 7. You're going to break Rule 12, and this is where you'll end up. This call is the consequence. This has always been the consequence. My blood went cold. Who is this? Disconnect the call, the voice said. Follow the rule. Don't make the mistake I made. Don't ever, ever dispatch past mile marker 7, no matter how convincing the caller sounds. No matter what they tell you, the calls aren't real. The emergencies aren't real. Cutter Road past mile marker 7 doesn't exist the way you think it does. I don't understand. Disconnect. Now, before this conversation becomes part of your loop too. I disconnected with shaking hands. I sat there, staring at the phone, trying to process what I'd just heard. It was a trick. Had to be. Something mimicking a future version of me, trying to make me paranoid, trying to make me break protocol in some other way. Or it was the truth, and 24 years from now I'd be trapped in a place that didn't exist, calling back to warn myself. I logged it. 5:43 a.m. Call from 2901 Cutter Road. Refused dispatch per Rule 12. Caller made unusual statements. Disconnected per protocol. At 6:07, Janet arrived. I briefed her quickly, didn't mention the content of the final call. Just said it was another Cutter Road refusal. She nodded. Quiet night otherwise? Yeah, quiet. I went home. Tried to sleep. Couldn't stop thinking about that voice on the phone, claiming to be me, trapped somewhere that didn't exist. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern continued. Some nights were quiet. Normal calls, standard anomalies, manageable procedures. Other nights triggered code black conditions, requiring emergency protocols. On my 23rd shift, I had to use Final Contingency 1 when shapes remained visible in the corners after Protocol 4 should have cleared them. I spoke the words, "I am on duty. I claim right of position. You are not authorized here." 3 times, voice steady, and the shapes receded. On my 27th shift, during a power failure that lasted 43 minutes, I sat in flashlight glow while something circled my desk for the entire duration, close enough that I could hear fabric dragging across the carpet, feel displacement of air when it passed behind my chair. On my 30th shift, exactly 1 month into the job, Diane called me in before my shift. "You've completed your probationary period," she said. "Normally I'd offer you a permanent position at this point, but I want you to think carefully before accepting." "Why?" "Because you're good at this. Very good. You follow procedures exactly. You don't panic. You don't rationalize away what's happening. Those are valuable traits. But they're also dangerous ones." "I don't understand." She pulled out a file. "The 12 people who successfully completed overnight dispatch assignments. Do you know what happened to them afterward? They moved to other positions? Some, but most stayed. They kept working overnights, month after month, year after year. The longest-serving overnight dispatcher was a woman named Sarah Klein. She worked this position for 19 years before she finally requested a transfer. Sarah, the name from Rule 8, the name callers asked for. What happened to her? She works in records now, day shift, normal hours, but she's never quite. Diane paused. She's functional, professional, but there's something about her that's not entirely present anymore. Like part of her is still in that room, still working midnight to 6, still following the rules. You're saying the job changes you. I'm saying the job takes something from you, slowly. And you might not notice until it's too late to get it back. She closed the file. I'm offering you the permanent position because you've earned it. But I'm also offering you a transfer to day shift dispatch. Less pay, but normal work, normal hours, no protocols beyond standard emergency procedures. I thought about it. Thought about the voice on the phone claiming to be me in 24 years. Thought about Sarah Klein, working records, not entirely present. If I take the transfer, who works overnights? We'll find someone, we always do. And they'll have to deal with everything I've been dealing with. Yes, I looked at my hands. Thought about the rules, the procedures, the careful precision required to survive each shift. Thought about how I'd started to time the anomalies, predict them, prepare for them. How I'd stopped being afraid and started being efficient. "I'll stay," I said. Diane nodded slowly. "All right. Then there's one more document you need to see." She pulled out a thin folder marked confidential and opened it to a single page. "This is the complete list of rules," she said. "Everything we've given you so far, the core rules, the amendments, the emergency protocols, the final contingencies, those are what we call the active rules. They're what you follow during your shifts. But there's another category, passive rules, things you need to know but never act on. I read the page. Passive rules. Awareness only. No action required. Passive Rule 1. The entities you encounter are not hostile in the conventional sense. They follow their own protocols, their own rules. Your rules create boundaries they cannot cross. When they test those boundaries, they are not attacking. They are verifying the system is still functioning. Passive Rule 2. Cutter Road past mile marker 7 exists simultaneously as a real location and as a conceptual boundary. The emergencies reported there are real in their own context, but cannot be resolved through conventional dispatch. Units sent there do not return unchanged. This is why Rule 12 exists. Passive Rule 3. The voices in the main room at 2:15 are recordings of actual dispatchers who worked this position in years past. They are not aware they are being recorded. They are not aware they are still working their shifts. If you hear your own voice among them, it means you have worked overnight dispatch for more than 10 years. Passive Rule 4. The version of you that reports for shift each night is not quite the same as the version that leaves at 6 a.m. The accumulation of these small differences is what creates the not entirely present effect noticed in long-term overnight dispatchers. This process cannot be prevented, only managed through strict rule adherence. Passive Rule 5. Every person who has worked this position leaves something of themselves in the room. You are working in a space populated by fragments of 17 previous dispatchers. They are not ghosts. They are echoes of procedural compliance, patterns worn into the fabric of the location through repeated correct action. Passive Rule 6. The rules protect you, but they also bind you. The more shifts you work, the more thoroughly you internalize the protocols, the harder it becomes to function outside their structure. Former overnight dispatchers report difficulty making decisions without clear procedures, discomfort in unstructured social situations, and a persistent sense that reality is conditional rather than absolute. Passive Rule 7. You cannot quit this position through normal means. If you wish to leave, you must work a minimum of 6 months, then submit a formal transfer request. The request will be granted, but the transition period lasts 30 days during which you must train your replacement. During those 30 days, you will work double shifts, your overnight shift, then the day shift with your replacement. This is necessary to transfer the procedural knowledge completely. Passive Rule 8. There is no objective way to verify whether the anomalies you experience are real in a conventional sense. The rules work regardless of the true nature of the phenomena. Do not waste energy trying to understand what you're dealing with. Focus on compliance. I finished reading and looked up at Diane. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because you needed to establish your relationship with the rules first. Needed to prove you could follow them without understanding them. Now that you've done that, you can handle knowing the context. She took the paper back. Questions? Passive Rule 3. The voices. You said if I hear my own voice, it means I've worked here more than 10 years. Yes. Has anyone else heard their own voice? Sarah Klein did in her 17th year. And she worked 2 more years after that. She did. I thought about that. About hearing your own voice among the phantom dispatchers, knowing you'd become part of the recording, the loop, knowing you were already halfway to not being entirely present. What about Marcus? I asked. The other name from Rule 8. Who was Marcus? Marcus Teague. Worked overnight dispatch for 7 years. He heard his own voice in year 6. Worked another year, then requested an emergency transfer. We granted it. He works in a completely different field now. Hasn't been in this building in 12 years. Is he okay? Is he present? Diane hesitated. Define okay. He functions, has a family, holds a job. But he still follows rules that don't exist. Sets alarms for 3:30 in the morning even though he doesn't work. Checks locks obsessively, refuses to answer his phone between certain hours. The structure becomes permanent. And you're telling me this now because you have a choice to make. Keep working overnights and accept the gradual change or transfer now before it sets in too deeply. You've completed your probationary period. You can leave with no penalty. But someone else will have to do this job. Someone always does. I stood up. I'll think about it. You have 24 hours. After that, the decision is final for 6 months. I didn't go home. I drove around Mercy County for 3 hours, thinking. Drove past the courthouse, past the old residential districts, out onto the rural highways. At one point, I found myself on Cutter Road. I passed mile marker 3, then 4, then 5. At mile marker 6, I slowed down. There was mile marker 7 ahead, and past it. The road continued. Normal pavement, normal trees. I could see houses in the distance, normal rural properties. It looked real. It looked completely real. But I didn't drive past mile marker 7. I turned around and went back. That night, my 31st shift, I arrived at 11:45 with my decision made. I would stay. Not because I was brave or because I didn't understand the cost, but because I had discovered something about myself over the past month. I was good at this. The rules made sense to me. The precision, the structure, the absolute clarity of correct action. It felt right in a way normal life never had. Maybe that meant I was already changing. Maybe the job selected for people who were already halfway to not entirely present. Maybe it didn't matter. I relieved Janet at midnight and locked the door. The shift proceeded normally. Calls came in. I dispatched units, performed radio checks, followed protocols. At 2:15, the voices started. I listened carefully, but didn't hear my own voice among them. Not yet. At 3:30, the screen went black. I closed my eyes and counted while something moved around the room. At 4:47, I received a call for Cutter Road, mile marker 8. I refused dispatch and disconnected. At 6:05, Janet arrived and I briefed her. "Quiet night," she said. "Yeah, quiet." Over the following months, the pattern continued. Some nights were routine. Some triggered code black. I learned to read the signs, predict the escalations, prepare mentally for the worst shifts. I started keeping my own supplementary log, not required by the rules, just personal observations, timing patterns, frequency of different anomalies, correlations between events. I noticed that code black conditions tended to cluster around the new moon, that line 3 rang more frequently on Thursdays, that my screen stayed black longer when the temperature outside was below freezing. None of this information changed how I did my job. The rules remained the same regardless of patterns. But documenting them gave me a sense of control, of understanding that made the shifts easier. At 6 months, I was fully established. The job felt natural. I could handle code black conditions without elevated heart rate, could follow emergency protocols smoothly, could sit in darkness while things moved around me and maintain perfect focus on procedures. Diane called me in for a 6-month review. "You're one of the best overnight dispatchers we've ever had," she said. "Consistent rule compliance, good decision-making under pressure, excellent documentation, no major incidents." "Thank you. How are you doing, outside of work?" I thought about it. "Fine, normal. Social life, friends, hobbies?" "I sleep mostly during the day, then get ready for shift." "Nothing else?" "The job is demanding. I need to be rested." She made a note in my file. "Have you noticed any changes in how you think, how you make decisions?" "I'm more systematic, more procedural. Is that a problem?" "Not for the job, but for your life outside the job." She paused. "I want you to try something. This week, on one of your days off, I want you to do something completely unstructured. No schedule, no plan, no rules. See how it feels." "Why?" "Because I need you to maintain some connection to normal functioning. You're an excellent overnight dispatcher, but I don't want to lose you to the position completely." That Sunday, I tried to follow her advice. Woke up without an alarm, no schedule planned, decided to just go for a walk, see where I ended up. I made it 3 blocks before the lack of structure became unbearable. No destination, no route, no clear procedures. I turned back, went home, and made a detailed schedule for the rest of the day. Lunch at 12:30, shopping from 2 to 3:15, dinner at 6, prepare for shift from 8 to 10:30. Following the schedule felt right, natural, safe. I didn't mention this to Diane. At 9 months, I heard my first serious breach. It was a Thursday night, my 68th shift. Everything had been routine until 3:55 a.m., when I heard someone scream in the main dispatch room. Not a voice from the 2:15 to 2:35 recording. This was live, immediate, terrified. A woman screaming for help. My hands froze on the keyboard. The rules didn't cover this. Rule 7 addressed the voices between 2:15 and 2:35. Rule 10 addressed violations occurring in the building that weren't my concern. But a scream? A live person in distress? The scream came again, followed by crashing sounds, furniture breaking. I checked the manual frantically. Nothing. Checked my notes on emergency protocols. Nothing. The crashing continued. The woman screamed again. "Please, someone help me!" Every instinct said to go help, to investigate, to do my job as an emergency services professional and respond to someone in distress. But the fundamental principle was, don't leave your room, don't investigate, don't open the door. I sat at my desk, hands shaking, listening to the woman scream and furniture breaking and something horrible happening 40 feet away through 2 doors and a hallway. It lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Then silence. At 6:03, Janet arrived. She looked normal, professional, carrying her coffee. "Morning, anything to report?" I stopped. Around 4 a.m., there were sounds in the main room, screaming, crashing. It lasted about 5 minutes. Her expression didn't change. "Did you investigate?" "No." "Good." She set her coffee down. "That was a test, not by us, by them, to see if you'd break protocol for an apparently urgent situation." It sounded real. It always does. That's the point. She pulled out the chair. "You did exactly right. Go home." But I couldn't shake it. That night, before my shift, I called Diane. Janet said the screaming was a test. But what if it wasn't? What if someone was actually hurt? "The building is empty overnight," Diane said. "Just you. Security checks it before midnight, checks it again at 6 a.m. No one else has access." But listen to me carefully. The things you hear, the things you experience, they are not emergencies you can solve by intervening. They exist in a different framework. Your rules protect you from that framework. The moment you step outside your room to investigate, to help, to verify, that's when you become part of what's happening instead of separate from it. So I just listen to people scream? You listen to sounds that resemble people screaming. There's a difference. Her voice softened. "I know this is hard, but you have to trust that the rules exist for reasons that go beyond normal emergency response logic. Can you do that?" "Yes," I said, but I wasn't sure I meant it. My shifts over the next month were difficult. I heard the screaming twice more, heard other sounds, crying, pleading, calls for help. Each time I sat at my desk and followed procedures and did nothing. The rule-based clarity that had made the job manageable was starting to feel like a trap. I was good at following rules, excellent at compliance. But was I becoming the kind of person who could sit passively while people suffered? Except they weren't people. Diane said they weren't people. The rules said they weren't people. But they sounded like people. At 11 months, Diane called me in again. "I'm concerned about you," she said. "Your compliance is perfect, but your documentation is becoming obsessive. You're logging things that don't need to be logged, creating supplementary rules that don't exist." I'm trying to understand the patterns. The patterns don't matter. The rules are the rules. They don't change based on moon phases or temperature or day of the week. You're trying to find logic in something that isn't logical. Then what is it? It's procedural. That's all you need to know. Follow the rules, complete your shifts, maintain boundaries. She pulled out a form. "I'm recommending you take a week off, paid leave. You need to disconnect from the job. Remember what normal life feels like." "I don't need..." "It's not optional. 1 week, starting Monday. Use the time however you want, but don't come to the building, don't think about the rules, don't check in with anyone here." The week off was agony. Without the structure of the shift, without the clarity of the rules, I felt untethered. I tried to establish routines, wake at specific times, eat at specific intervals, create structured activities, but it wasn't the same. By Wednesday, I was checking my watch constantly, mentally running through radio check procedures, testing myself on rule sequences. By Friday, I called Diane and asked if I could come back early. "No," she said, "full week. I need you to sit with the discomfort." "What discomfort?" "The discomfort of not having rules to follow, of functioning without procedures. That's what normal people do every day. I need you to remember you can do it too. On Sunday night, my last night off, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed watching the clock, midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. At 2:15, I imagined the voices starting in the main room. At 3:30, I closed my eyes for 90 seconds out of habit. Monday night, I returned to work. Janet briefed me on the quiet week. Nothing unusual, standard calls, normal anomalies. She left at midnight. I locked the door. The shift felt like coming home. The familiar desk, the green glow terminal, the hum of fluorescent lights, the rules waiting in their manual, clear and absolute. At 12:23, the footsteps came. I stayed at my desk and they passed. At 2:15, the voices started. I wrote acknowledged when they said my name. At 3:30, the screen went black. I closed my eyes and counted. Everything was right again. Everything made sense. At 1 year, Diane called me in for my annual review. "You've completed 12 months of overnight dispatch," she said. "That's an achievement. Most people don't make it past 6 months." "Thank you. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Do you want to continue this position?" I thought about it. Thought about the gradual changes I could feel in myself, the increased need for structure, the discomfort with ambiguity, the way I'd started to prefer night to day, solitude to company, rules to freedom. "Yes," I said. "Even knowing the cost?" "Even knowing the cost." She nodded slowly. "Then you should know something. You're approaching the threshold, the point where the changes become permanent. If you work another year, you'll be like Sarah, like Marcus. The rules will be part of you forever, even after you leave. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not sure you do. The person you were when you started this job, that person is almost gone. In another year, they'll be completely gone. You'll be someone else, someone who can't function without procedures, who can't trust anything that isn't codified in rules, who experiences reality as conditional and uncertain." "That's already who I am," I said quietly. She looked at me for a long moment. Yeah, I suppose it is. All right, you're approved for year 2. Same rules, same protocols. But I want you to check in with me monthly, not for evaluation, just to talk, to maintain some human connection outside the procedural framework. Okay. And if you ever decide you want out, tell me immediately. Don't wait. The longer you stay, the harder the extraction becomes. Over the next months, the job became everything. I worked my shifts, slept during the day, lived for the clarity of midnight to 6 a.m. The rest of life, the unstructured, ambiguous, ruleless existence people called normal, felt increasingly foreign. I stopped maintaining friendships, stopped trying to have hobbies, stopped pretending I was anything other than an overnight dispatcher who existed to follow procedures. The anomalies continued. Some nights were quiet, some triggered code black. I handled all of it with mechanical efficiency, perfect compliance, zero deviation. At 16 months, I heard my own voice in the 2:15 recording. It was brief, just a fragment of a sentence, my voice saying something about unit availability. But it was definitely me. My cadence, my phrasing, my tone. I wrote acknowledged in my log and kept working. At 18 months, Diane called me in. "We need to talk about your replacement," she said. "What replacement?" "I'm moving you to day shift, effective in 30 days. I stood up. "No, I didn't request a transfer. I'm initiating it. You've worked overnight for 18 months. That's past the recommended threshold. You need to transition before the changes become completely irreversible." "I don't want to transition." "I know. That's exactly why you need to. You've lost perspective. You think the rules are more real than reality. That's the sign it's time to leave." "Who's going to work overnights?" "We have a new hire starting in 3 weeks. You'll train them for 30 days, work double shifts during the transition, then move to day shift permanently." "And if I refuse?" "Then I terminate your employment entirely. Those are your options: transition voluntarily or leave the job completely." I sat back down. "This isn't fair." "No, it's not, but it's necessary." She slid a folder across. "This is your new assignment: day shift dispatch, main room, full crew support. Normal hours, normal work, no special protocols. You'll be fine." "I won't be fine. I can't function without the rules." "Then you'll learn. Or you'll get therapy, or both. But you can't stay in that room forever. No one can. The new hire was a young man named David Chen, 23, eager, nervous. I trained him the same way Diane had trained me, showed him the desk, the phone console, the radio, the manual. Read the rules carefully, I told him. Follow them exactly. Don't improvise, don't investigate, don't deviate. But what if something doesn't make sense? It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be followed. We worked double shifts for 30 days. I'd do my midnight to 6, then stay through his training shift from midnight to 6, then brief Janet and go home at 6:30 a.m. 14 hours in the building, most of it in that small room, following the rules. During those 30 days, David experienced his first footsteps, his first voices, his first line 3 ringing. I talked him through each one, reinforced the procedures, made sure he understood compliance was everything. "What are we dealing with?" he asked on day 12. "What causes this?" "Doesn't matter. Follow the rules." "But if we understood..." "Understanding is irrelevant. Compliance is everything." He learned quickly. By day 20, he was handling shifts solo while I observed. By day 30, he was ready. My last overnight shift was on a Thursday. Everything proceeded normally. Standard calls, expected anomalies, perfect compliance. At 2:15, I listened to the voices and heard myself among them, a longer fragment this time. At 3:30, the screen went black and I closed my eyes. At 6:07, Janet arrived for her day shift, but she didn't brief me. Instead, she handed me a card. "From all of us," she said, "the overnight dispatchers, past and present." I opened it. Inside, 17 signatures. Names I recognized from my research: Sarah Klein, Marcus Teague, others I didn't know. And at the bottom, in neat handwriting, "The rules keep us safe, even after we leave. Thank you for following them." I started my day shift the following Monday. The main dispatch room was bright, crowded, loud. 6 other dispatchers working, phones ringing constantly, radios crackling, supervisors walking around. No rules about locked doors or forbidden phone lines or voices at specific times. Just standard emergency dispatch procedures, the kind they teach in training classes. It felt chaotic, overwhelming, wrong. I lasted 4 hours before I had a panic attack and had to leave. Diane found me in the parking lot, sitting in my car. "I can't do this," I said. "I can't work without the structure." "You can. It just takes time to adjust." "I need the rules. I need to know exactly what to do, exactly when, exactly how. Out there, it's just chaos." That's what normal dispatch is, controlled chaos. You adapt to situations, use judgment, make calls based on incomplete information. You used to be able to do that. I was a different person then. "I know." She sat on the hood of my car. "That's why I'm putting you on modified duty for 3 months. Reduced hours, extra supervision, limited complexity calls. You'll relearn how to function without absolute procedures. It won't be easy, but you'll do it. And if I can't, then we'll find another solution. But you have to try. You can't spend the rest of your life in that room, following those rules. Eventually, they would destroy you completely." The adjustment took 6 months, not 3. Slowly, painfully, I relearned how to function in ambiguity, how to make decisions without clear procedures, how to tolerate uncertainty. I still wake at 3:30 a.m. most nights, still check my locks obsessively, still feel most comfortable when following clear, specific rules. But I function. I hold the day shift job. I interact with colleagues, handle complex emergencies, make judgment calls. Sometimes I walk past the back hallway, past the door to the overflow center. I can hear the radio inside, David's voice performing his 1 a.m. radio check. I can hear the footsteps sometimes, distant and muffled. I can feel the pull of that room, the clarity of absolute procedures. But I don't go in. David has been working overnights for 4 months now. "He's doing well," Diane says. "Excellent compliance, good instincts, following the rules perfectly. Last week I saw him in the parking lot at 6:30 a.m., leaving his shift. He looked tired, but focused. I waved. He nodded back, but didn't smile, didn't speak. Just got in his car and drove away. I recognized that look, that focus, that distance. He was already changing. In another 8 months, Diane will move him to day shift, whether he wants it or not. She'll find another new hire, start the cycle again. Someone else will sit in that room, learn the rules, follow the procedures, gradually become someone who can't quite function without them. The work continues, the rules remain, the building stands. And somewhere in the static between midnight and 6 a.m., in the space between proper procedure and survival instinct, 17 dispatchers continue their shifts. I was the 18th. David Chen will be the 19th. And someday, perhaps, someone will write about him the way I'm writing this now, trying to explain what it means to follow rules that shouldn't have to exist, in a job that shouldn't have to be done, protecting people from emergencies they'll never know about. The rules keep us safe, even after we leave, especially after we leave. I still have my copy of the manual. I keep it in my car, in a sealed envelope, never opened. But knowing it's there helps. Knowing the procedures still exist, still hold, still work, that helps. Because some nights, when I'm lying awake at 3:30 a.m., I can hear the voices from the main room even though I'm miles away. I can hear my own voice among them, speaking in procedures, following the rules, doing the job. That version of me is still in that room, will always be in that room, working midnight to 6, answering line 1 only, performing radio checks on the hour, keeping the door locked, refusing to investigate the footsteps, refusing to look at the window, refusing to acknowledge the shapes in the corners, following the rules exactly, the way I taught David to do, the way whoever trained me taught me to do, the way we've all learned, 18 dispatchers across 43 years in a room that exists slightly outside normal reality, doing a job that protects a boundary most people don't know exists. This is my testimony, my documentation, my attempt to explain. If you're reading this because you've been offered the overnight dispatch position at Mercy County Emergency Communications Center, understand what you're accepting. The pay is good. The work is important. The rules are clear. But the cost is yourself, not all at once, not in any dramatic way. Just slowly, shift by shift, rule by rule, until the person you were becomes the person you had to be to survive. And you can't go back. You can leave the room, transition to day shift, rebuild a version of normal life, but you can't become who you were before. That person died somewhere between your first midnight and your last, following procedures that don't exist anywhere else, maintaining boundaries that shouldn't need to exist. The rules keep us safe, but they change us. And we can never quite explain how or why to anyone who hasn't sat in that room, locked that door, followed those procedures through the long hours between midnight and 6 a.m. So if you take the job, know what you're accepting. And if you don't take the job, be grateful. Because somewhere in Mercy County right now, David Chen is sitting in the overflow center, answering line 1 only, performing his radio checks, following the rules exactly as I taught him. And he doesn't know yet that he's already gone. None of us did. Not until it was far too late to matter.